Food Not Bombs helps to feed Houston's homeless every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 7 p.m. Food Not Bombs meets at 521 Lamar in the downtown library courtyard. Volunteers are always needed and welcomed for Food Not Bombs. For more information, the email is fnbhouston@riseup.net. G3 stands for Green Community, Green Thought, and Green Action. G3 meets every Monday at 7 p.m. at the Midtown Bar and Grill. That's at 415 West Gray. For more information about the G3, the website is hcgp.org. We're now going to turn the page, so to speak, and discuss the very large issue that has been ongoing now for several months in Mexico, dealing with students that went missing near the city of Iguala. If you have not been following this story, let me try to give you a brief synopsis. 40 some odd students went missing. They were disappeared. The federal government of Mexico apparently did very little about it. Some of their remains have been found, others have not and have not been identified. There is political intrigue involved in this, with a mayor being arrested and possibly is responsible for this. It is a very big issue, and if you have not heard about it, you will now spend the next half hour hearing about it with our guests. We are joined by Fernanda Villalpando. She is with the Asamblea Popular de Houston. And we're also joined by Pamela Gonzalez. She is also with APH. And we're also joined by Henry Cooper, who is a frequent guest and contributor here at GreenWatch. Thank you all for being on the program with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
A lot of folks here in the United States, maybe they've heard a little bit about this, but they don't understand just how big of a deal it is with nationwide demonstrations and protests and people, government officials having to resign. Let's get a basic idea of what happened. Pamela, tell us what happened.
Sure. The main issue is what is happening in Mexico is it is a tremendous injustice, not just for students, but every citizen residing in Mexico. What happened was that the government had kidnapped 43 students, and these students were burned alive. This is what we had known so far. The students were from the school called Normal Rural Raúl Isidro Burgos. They have a history of being activists and caring for their rural areas. So what they did, the government did was kidnap them because they were thinking that they were going to protest against the conference that the mayor of the city of Iguala was doing. This issue has been the result of tremendous protest, and especially here in Houston, that's why we have the Asamblea Popular of Houston, that we are fighting for justice and that we are creating information and giving it to the citizens here in Houston and surrounding areas.
And so, is it 42 or how many students have gone missing?
It was 43 students.
43.
Iguala is a little town in Guerrero State.
And we have a map, if we can get that to
Well,
be put up while you're describing where it is.
Yeah, so Iguala is a little town in Guerrero State, and what happened is that these 43 students were making a collect to go to a protest in Mexico City related to the 2 de Octubre, that's the 2nd of October, is we commemorate the time when the government killed a lot of students in Mexico in 1968 in the movement, the 60s movement. So they were making the collect to go to this protest, and the mayor's wife had an event at in the same little town, and they had previous issues. These students with the mayor and the mayor's wife. So what happened was the students clashed with the municipal police, and there were 6 people dead. 2 passengers died, and some others were injured, and 43 students were kidnapped by the police. And allegedly, the police turned in these students to a drug cartel called Guerreros Unidos. So after that, after 100 days of the disappearance, the government didn't have any answer to the public, any answer to the parents of the students, and that's when the public in Mexico started all the protests, because the Mexican state didn't respond with opportunity to what's going on with these students. They started looking for them, and they encounter mass graves of tens of people burned alive. None of those bodies corresponded to the 43 students, so that showed another issue, that there were a lot of people, a lot of violence that was not even recognized.
But I mean, there can be a lot of violence, but we've got a composite picture of all 43 people that were literally disappeared. This is 43 people who had an interaction with a police department, and then they go missing, and the federal government doesn't apparently do very much about it. It boggles my mind.
The problem here...
there they all are.
The problem here, if you consider the violence that have been for decades in Mexico, more in the last 10, 12 years, with all these governments that want to implement a very regressive plan for Mexico, is that these were not just students. These were the segment more humble and poorest of the Mexican society. These are kids that struggle to be on that school in order to be a future teacher. And the teacher in Mexico is one of our heroes, because they are the ones that fight for the community. That's why these schools, all rural schools, are targeted by the Mexican government. The conditions that they were living are very poor. They were claiming to the mayor of Iguala and the governor of Guerrero to reinstate the lunch money that they supposed to be receiving in order to live on the school quarters. It was only 36 pesos a day for 3 meals. 33 pesos a day. Not even $2 a day for lunch expenses.
And this is what they wanted to demonstrate about.
Exactly.
And they go missing.
That's right. And they were missing. They were massacred. The buses that they were traveling in, they looked like Gruyere cheese. I mean, with all the bullets that they have. The fact that rose awareness is that how one of these students were defaced. They were kidnapped, it was killed, and was defaced, and they throw it back to the other kids just to show what was going to happen.
Now, remains have been identified, and actually quite recently, the first student was identified, I think, a couple of days ago. So we know that the end was not good. They officially disappeared according to the Mexican government, but we found one's remains. There's probably the rest out there to be discovered. What evidence do we have, Pamela, that the police took the students and then gave them over to a drug cartel, to a gang?
The first problem, or the first evidence that we might per se that we are aware that the government took the students, is because police officers and military men were just 2 miles away from the place of evidence. They were aware of the situation, and they didn't do anything to be able to look for them. Now, the government has links with the drug cartels. One of them, one of the issues that we might consider of is whenever the U.S. government sends money to aid Mexico to fight about violence, this money is manipulated to give it to the drug cartels, which is increasing the violence in Mexico. Now, the mayor from Iguala, Jose Luis Burgos, excuse me, Jose Luis Abarca, excuse me, and his wife, they evaded justice for 5 weeks. So if you don't have nothing to hide, why are you running away from justice?
Now, in Iguala, it's not an enormous, it's not like a metropolis or anything, but it's not a tiny little village. And this is the mayor and his wife who just go missing. I mean, that is really questionable.
Correct. They were missing, excuse me, they ran away from justice, and to find them, they took about 5 weeks.
Right, not go missing. Because I don't want to confuse them with the students. They leave.
They run away.
They're on the lam.
They evaded justice.
Okay, and so now the mayor has been arrested.
He has been arrested,
Okay.
and he was charged so far for 6 murders, and he is still in jail with the wife.
And then also the governor of the state of Guerrero has
yeah, he
stepped
resigned. The former governor of Guerrero, he resigned after what happened. There were a lot of. Well, first of all, I want to add something to the first
Sure.
question that you asked, Pamela. What was the first evidence that we had that the police and the state was involved with the disappearance? Is that there was a video when there was a video that went viral on the social media in the moment that they were kidnapped and the killings from the clash with the police and the students. So that was the first part. The second part is that after the disappearance, they arrested 36 police officers, and they make declarations. So the federal government took these declarations as a linked that, of course, they accepted the responsibility, and they linked the evidence to the mayor. That's when the mayor also ran away and hid it for all this time.
Can I stop you just briefly?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the authorities are, arresting officers and questioning them, getting
Mm-hmm.
evidence against the mayor, who then flees.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like there is some type of state response.
Yes, it has been there has been this state response, but activists, the parents of the students, we have took this response with skepticism, because first of the length of the response.
So it took too long.
It took first of the length of the response. Second, we are questioning, like, how is it possible that you had a mayor that was linked with the drug cartels? Was there any, as a federal government, we expected the people from Mexico and the citizens from Mexico, we expected to at least to certain kind of measures of what was his background, why he got to be a mayor, how he was in a political party, how the governor of the state knew about the disappearance in the first hours of the disappearance, and he did nothing about it. He didn't send any state police to find the case. The military that was 2 miles away, that military is from the federal government, didn't respond to the disappearance right away. So what happened?
The response hasn't been adequate.
The response took a lot of time, and the response was after all the social movements that the Mexican people started protesting. Without this, all these protests, we haven't. I think we haven't had this. They started making those arrests because we mobilized.
Because people were in the streets.
Mobilized.
And
Without, because we found out now that there are a lot of mass graves that no one mobilized about those mass graves, about all those killings, and Mexican government has not
discovered them.
anything. Like, there have been individuals that have put some asked the government for some response, but nothing has happened until the people mobilize. That it's now when the Mexican government has responded.
We've got a picture of some of the demonstrations, I believe, in Mexico City in front of the National Cathedral, if we can show that. The demonstrations have been really something else
Massive.
to see, and they're all across Mexico and even up into the United States. Why all of the political mobilization?
This is a tipping point for the Mexican society, because it is not just the 43 students that have been kidnapped. It is the numbers that pile up before these 43 students. According to the Institute of Statistics of the Mexican government, these are government's numbers. There are 22,322 kills that haven't been investigated by the police up to 2006. There are 123,470 kidnapped people up to 2013. There were found 62 bodies while they were searching for the 43 students that were disappeared. There are just in the 23 months of the government of Peña Nieto, there have been 42,000 executions. Executions, people that have been decapitated, and these are not drug dealers. This is not a fight in between cartels. That is a media example just to keep the people away from this. But when they touch these students, they could not pour anything against them, because everybody knows the kind of the students that these kids were.
So this is really about violence and even corruption.
This is about state murder. State murder, because it was state officials who did it. There were state officials who tried to cover it. There are state officials that have tried to merge the water in order that not to link all the connections with the drug cartels. That ties even the president, according to the history that he has when he was a state government of the state of Mexico. They are pulling all this back around that we are surprised. That's why the mobilizations is not only now to present the 43 students. We want the people of Mexico, of Mexico is asking for the resignation of the president. That is the main goal now of the whole mobilization. And that's why everybody that is a Mexican has been mobilized around the world, like here in Houston.
Why? This is, I mean, I understand it's a really big deal. There's 43 people that have been missing and have been killed at the hands of a government official working in collaboration with a drug cartel. That's a big deal. But why the resignation of the president of the nation? Why do we want that?
Because they are the problem. The Mexican government is the problem.
The president, the national government.
The national government. They have one of the most effective military in Latin America to repress people, not to defend people. We have no wars around Mexico. Mexico is not having wars with nobody. But the state has used the money that the Plan Mérida has given it in order to arm, as you have never seen, the Mexican military and the Mexican police, and they cannot guarantee the safe and the lives of the Mexicans. All this money has been used just to repress people.
Pamela, what are your thoughts? Why must President Nieto go?
He must go because by the time that since he has been in power, we haven't seen any difference in change in the government. As Mr. Henry had mentioned, there are a great quantity of kills, mass murders, violence, and all this money that it's paying by the United States to Mexico based on the Mérida plan, it's being manipulated for the purchase of guns, for given to the drug cartels, for the government to find protection for them. He must go. Because he has a history as well in Mexico of being corrupt, of having corruption, of increasing the violence, and us as citizens of the world, we're looking for justice and peace.
Now, I'm not an expert in Mexican politics at all. I'm going to kind of make a statement and see what you all think about it. President Nieto, my understanding, is from a center-right party.
Yes, you can say that. You can say that. You can say that.
And then the mayor of Iguala and then the governor of Guerrero is kind of from a
leftist party.
So is this a leftist? Well, see, I'm
yes.
I'm no expert. But is this a problem that kind of goes across the spectrum, this problem of corruption?
Yes.
So it's everybody in Mexican politics.
When the PRD, the party of the mayor of Iguala, came into politics in Mexico about 14 years ago in 1994, it was seen as the option from the left wing of the Mexican society, and there was a lot of expectations on that party, and we have seen that as long as they started operating as a political party, they received money from the state in order to survive, and everything went to hell. They are acting just like the same people of the PRI, the party that kept in government for 70 years. They are acting just like the other party, the right-wing party that was the PIN, that lasted only two periods with the presidents, and people is disenchanting. They see that there are no political options for ordinary workers, for ordinary peasants, for ordinary people.
Fernando, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, my thoughts is that Peña Nieto shouldn't have been president from the beginning. When he got elected, rightfully elected, I would say, he was already blamed by activists and human rights organizations of repressions in Atenco. I don't know if you're familiar, I don't know if your audience is familiar with Atenco, but that was another social mobilization of from a rural area, and also the police went and repressed the people from that area, and there were a lot of especially women raped by the police, a lot of international human rights watchers arrested without any cause. So I think he has a history of violence, and not only him as a president, but his party, his political party, is the party that has been in Mexico for 70 years, or more than 70 years, and we have like the perfect dictatorship, because it's a dictatorship disguised as a democracy. Like, in reality, I don't think that we have a real democracy in Mexico, and that's what our mobilizations are all about. We want to start a real democracy in Mexico. We're not against a president. We just want a president represent the people, and first of all, that guarantee the security and safety of all the people. The first reason that he has to go is because there are 22,322 people killed so far in 2 years. So that's a huge...
Just the tremendous level of violence in Mexico is reason enough to...
Is reason enough.
To demonstrate.
Plus other reasons. But
Pamela, why should Americans who are reading this in the paper and watching this on TV and on the internet, why should Americans pay attention to this and care about the 43 students and the demonstrations?
Great, because Mexico is our neighbor, and we as Latinos and Mexican activists, we are fighting for justice and peace, and this problem is becoming a social issue that is affecting the United States. Why is it affecting the United States? One, we per se, is immigration. Why people come to the United States? Because of the lack of opportunities in Mexico, because the high rate of violence that we are facing in Mexico. So, and as mentioned before, with the Plan Merida, all that money is going to improving the violence in Mexico, and it's tax money from us that the United States is giving to Mexico.
Pamela, we may want to do a show next year about this and have you on to talk about how the Mexican government is misspending the money we give them to even increase violence. What are y'all doing here in Houston? What kind of event, and largely in the United States? What are people protesting about, and what are y'all hoping to do here?
Let me start, yes, so that Pamela can give you an entourage of what is going on. Something is happening in Mexico and around the world, because the political parties have shown that they are all corrupt, all of them. People are creating assemblies. People are gathering and starting to discussing their problems and how to proceed. And here in Houston happened the same situation that it happened all around the Mexican Republic and around the world. The creation of a popular assembly that is taking decisions to take the future in their own hands.
Correct. We have created the Assemblies People of Houston, now as well known in Spanish, Asamblea Popular de Houston, which you can find us in Facebook, Twitter, and we have as well our website. Our mission, our purpose is to inform people. We are just a group of world citizens that are seeking for justice and that are seeking for peace, in not just in Mexico but in Latin other countries. We have several events, and we are promoting our assembly to inform people, to let them know what is going on in Mexico, to let them know that it's affecting, even though we live far away, it's affecting the United States. And we have family. It's just a civil rights movement that us, as activists, we should take care of and pay attention to and fight for what we believe.
And there's a series of events that we would like to invite your
Please
audience.
do. I was just about to ask about that. What events do you have coming up?
Coming up, we have an event in the Teatro Bilingüe de Houston. It's in Jensen. I don't remember.
33 Jensen Drive.
33. The next December the 27th at 5 p.m. there will be a comedian, but that will join the pain of the, like, we want to join the pain with comedy, but also it will be a show, a comedian show, but an informative comedian show. So we will be also having a fundraiser, because our ultimate goal is to invite the parents of the Mexican students that disappear, because we want them to tell you, to share their story here. So we are having this fundraiser for them to share their story, their own story, and to ask for everybody's help.
And you can get more information about the
Sure, you can
events.
get all
we've
this.
We've got the, I believe, the Facebook up there as well, along with Twitter.
Correct. It's at Asamblea Houston, and in Facebook it's Asamblea Houston, Asamblea Popular de Houston in Spanish. We are currently posting information in Spanish and English, so whoever is interested can join us to be informed and to see the events that we are having.
Henry, we've got less than 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask you a crazy question. I don't know why I'm going to ask it with this little time left. Is there any relationship between what's happening in Mexico against the disappearance and murder at the hands of state authorities of the 43 students and what's happening in the United States, where we're awakening to the level of police violence that we have here?
It's the same phenomena. A state repression of the people that are the victims of a social situation that is generated by the same state. You can see the racism, you can see the classism, and the paragon in between what's the violence from the state in Mexico is a resemblance of what is happening here in the United States with the police and the militarization of the judicial process.
Fernanda, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah,
very briefly.
I think that the relationship is that the state in Mexico and the state in Ferguson and now New York, instead of protecting the people, it's killing the people or handing them to other killers. So I don't want to get more like make more political analysis, but it's just as a simple citizen, that's not right. That a police that is supposed to protect and serve is killing their citizens.
I'll have to let that be the last word. That was Fernanda Villalpando. We've also been joined by Pamela Gonzalez and Henry Cooper. We've been talking about the disappearance and the murder at the hands of the state of the Iguala students in Mexico. Thank you very much for watching the program. For everyone here at GreenWatch, this is your world. Take care of it.
Ahorita que nos den la señal, nos paramos porque nos siguen grabando todavía.
With power, here they come, international loan sharks, backed by the guns of market-hungry military profiteers, whose word is a swamp and whose brow is smeared with the blood of the poor. Who rob life of its quality, who render rage a necessity, by turning countries into